Buford Pusser, the other story, in the photo section. So be sure and go over there, make a copy of them, do whatever you want with it. But it's very interesting, very telling, and it's things we've never heard before. You, the other night, they had a meeting in Adamsville trying to decide what to do with everything in Adamsville that is Buford Pusser related. And
As you noticed a few minutes ago, he said it's things that's never been heard before. The reason they've never been heard before, reason none of these was written in the newspaper back in 67, the reason there was never an indictment, this was never taken to the grand jury, the reason the DA, Abernathy, never brought charges against Buford Pusser, the reason why is this was something new. Somebody typed these statements up later on. Do you think, do you really think that had these statements survived and been there in 1967 and 68, all the way up to 1974 before Buford got killed, do you really believe that had we had these statements where they said Buford said that he killed his wife, where Buford said this, where Buford said that, do you really think that Abernathy would not have indicted Buford Pusser? Do you really think that Warren Jones, as bad as he wanted to charge Buford with anything, because he's a lot like Mike Elam, and he also disliked Buford Pusser, not for what Buford done to him, but for what Buford did to alcohol and drugs and all the illegals, the prostitutes, everything, because the TBI didn't want to do it. They didn't want to make people mad or take on enemies. Buford didn't care. And because of that, they made a movie about him, which made it even worse between him and the TBI and other law enforcement. It's called jealousy.
I I have one thing to
Yeah,
say, and
take your time.
so if
No,
um it I'm just curious. They've lost all the evidence, but yet they still have all these statements. They managed to keep
wow,
those, but they lost all the important evidence.
wow, exactly.
So how, you
That's
know,
my point from a while ago,
how
only
can you
not in
keep?
that plainer language.
Yeah.
You've lost everything else, but you've kept these statements. I wonder
Mhm.
how. I wonder how these statements just happened to come up. These
Exactly.
typewritten statements.
Yeah, they lost everything else but the statements. That doesn't make sense to me, but what do I know, right?
No, you know quite a bit, baby. That was good. You're exactly right. That's a
the
clue, babe.
crowd, which was highly supportive of the Pusser legend, doesn't want anything to change, but of course, they're not looking at the same things that I am. And the only suggestion that I've made about anything that they need to change over there is that they need to incorporate Pauline's name into the museum's title. And they,
Pauline's name is all over that museum.
Pictures, everything. I mean, when you go in there, when you first go in there on that piano set's her picture and Buford's.
Pauline and Buford are like Fred and Sheila. Everywhere you look,
Really?
you see Buford, you're going to see Pauline. And he says he wants them to incorporate Pauline, incorporate her. She's his wife. She's there with him. She went with him on his her last complaint. She was with him. What does this man talk is wanting anything at all that he has can say that he had a bearing. You're going to hear him in a minute. Go ahead, Sheila. What's he
Mhm.
saying? No, but in a minute he
Uh,
says
he said that they told him that he was the biggest reason why they pursued it.
he is he feels like that he had a whole lot
Yeah,
to
there you
do
go.
with something like that. A
Yeah,
whole lot
go
to do
here.
with reopening this case. That's great. And it's here on this video,
Mhm.
Madison. So, and Eric. So there he is. He's right on tape,
Yeah.
assuming responsibility for what's some of the things that's been said and slanderous and derogatory toward Buford and Pauline. He also said Pauline was a stripper. Now let's not forget that.
No, he said there was no,
He
but
likes to
but
say
mm,
he likes to say that justice for Pauline, but yet he's the only one that has ever made that statement, and it's never been contributed to nobody else. A lot like Mr. Howe with his .18 on Buford's alcohol when he was killed. A lot like that. In other words, he made it up. But he says justice for Pauline, but he calls her a go-go dancer in Chicago. A go-go dancer in Chicago in the 60s was a stripper. Another name for a stripper.
He said exotic, so
Okay.
Ready?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to display a lot of the files and things
Stop.
that are so damn.
Guys, I know I stop this a lot. Again, this is not for everybody. Sometimes this may be for legal people. This may be for attorneys to look at that don't have time to do all the research, and they might be able to use something that Sheila and I have put out there. Watch Mike how he waves them 3 pages up and down. You're going to see in a minute, there's no signature on those papers. There's no letterhead. There's no transcribed by. There's no witness signature. There's no witness that signed as a witness to the person that signed it as their statement. There's nothing. The date is even typed, is even penciled in. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
The date is penciled in later on and underlined. Guys, that paper right there. That wouldn't be worth whopping a person's rear end on. I'll just be honest with you. That's about what it is. Somebody has typed this up after the fact and put it out there, hoping that one day they would be a come by called Mike Elam, and he might pick up on this stuff. I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna use a hypothetical here. It's not impossible that this paper was even written in modern day times. This paper may have been typed up. How hard is it? By now, you should have done read. You should have done read the statement a while ago. It's not signed. It's not letterhead. It's not the one that's talking about no witnesses. It's a fake statement. That's a fake statement that I wrote up. I was going to go buy. I went on Marketplace trying to find an antique typewriter where I could type that up on an antique typewriter. Of course, my wife's smarter than me, and she figures out, hey, you can find font. You just have to download it. So we downloaded a font of an antique typewriter and made it look like that. Thought it was just going to be one sheet. It turned out to be 2. So there's you one sheet of paper that's real good and clear, modern day 2025 paper. Actually, they're both 2025 papers. So it would look older than it is. That brown paper there was actually, that was a statement that we made up, that we wrote. I wrote the date on. That's a fake paper to show how easy it is. If I can do that in 2025, could Mike Elam done that in 2015? Could Mike Elam done that in 2010? He says he's been at this for 20 years.
Mhm. He's
Could
been pushing it for 20 years. Yeah.
could this not be even have nothing to do with Warren Jones? I'm just asking a question here. Could Mike Elam have typed these so-called statements up from Jim Moffett, from Buford Pusser, and we're thinking that they're coming from Warren Jones? Could they actually be coming from Mike Elam? Anything's possible. Anything's possible. I showed you one a while ago that I did in about 10 minutes this morning before we made this video. It took me about 10 minutes to write that statement up and then to put it in the font, the old typewriter font. Use your own imagination. See, this guy's not as smart as he tries to act to everybody. And I have a feeling under oath, we may find out a lot of things because we may already, there may be some truth out there that some people already know. They just need to wait till they get into the courtroom and see how certain people answers. Because this man has talked to a lot of people over the years. He really has. And some of them he's tried to put words in their mouth. Some of them he has put words in their mouth. Some people he's asked leading questions, much like the TBI on their reports here, where they say not verbatim because they don't want you to hear, somewhat like Mr. Howell told Paul Irvin that his niece said she smelled alcohol. And then when Trooper Paul Irvin went to talk to the 14-year-old niece, He said, I understand that you smelled alcohol on Buford. That's called leading. Just ask her if she knew anything unusual, if she detected anything unusual, if there's a way to ask it without being so leading, especially when you're dealing with a 14-year-old. But that was Mr. Howell that was behind that. Let's let her play. We ain't never going. This is going to be a 2 or 3 videos.
Against the Pusser legend. Tell the legend if you want. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But be sure and tell the truth along the way.
Mike Elam, people don't have a problem with you having a problem with anything. You're a legend in your own mind, and you've let Buford Pusser live in that little mind for over 20 years because you wanted to be him and you couldn't. So you figured, well, I'll just attack him, somewhat like Roush and Davison has done. Nobody cares what you think, sir. Nobody really cares.
That he was no hero, that he was like Wyatt Earp, walked on both sides of the law.
Now, for the attorneys out there and for Madison and Eric, he walked on both sides of the law. From what Sheila and I have found out, we have never found one conviction for anything that Buford Pusser has done. We've not seen one video of a payoff. We've not heard one audio where he's taken a payoff or doing anything illegal. Mike Elam has made this comment in many, many videos that I've watched of him. He walked on both sides of the law. That is derogatory, that is slanderous and libel. So here he is once again on this tape, and he says that your grandfather walked on both sides of the law. I'm hoping that the attorneys allows him to prove that in court with proof what he means by that. Because Sheila and I haven't found any proof. And when you don't find any proof and you make a statement like that against somebody, that's slander.
So today we're going to take this basically in short parts so that you can make notes and digest it even quicker. So here we go. Now, in this document, of course, it's headed by the case number, the agent's name, that kind of information, the file number, and the very first paragraph they're talking about.
Stop it. See, guys, how Sheila's probably put it over his face by now where you can read it better than you can like it is there.
Mhm.
She'll have it blown up for you to read. Notice how he goes straight into the first paragraph. It's got the agent's name. It's got the case number. That's not hard to get. Anybody can get TBI agent's name from back in the 60s. You know, the funny thing is, isn't it funny that this TBI agent, the best I could figure out, he died in 2005, I believe it was. 2005. This man's been dead 20 years. But all of a sudden, we've got a statement available from, or a report, or whatever you want to call it. You can't call it either one. This is some words typewritten on a blank sheet of paper, because at the top of it, it's got Blackwell, and it's got to, from, and subject.
Yeah, that sounds like a letter.
And it's got the date, August 12th of 1967, written on it. August the 12th. This is what's this? Why all of a sudden did somebody write in there August the 12th, 1967? If he's the one that done the report, it would have been typewritten in there by him. So all you've got here, you don't have a letterhead, you don't have a signature, you don't have nothing. Somebody has put down a TBI agent's name as an investigator, and they started typing somewhat like I did a while ago on the one I did. Go ahead, babe.
Plus, the sixes don't match up. The writing, the case, the file number
Oh, look at that.
644. Look at
What
the
is that?
1967. This 6 here is totally
They
different
got
from
ready,
that one.
Sheila, to put an 8.
They got
ready to put an
something.
8 there, didn't they?
Something was weird about that one.
They
so I don't
they
know.
were writing fast here,
The writing's not the
and they was
same.
putting the year that it was probably really written in.
I don't know, but it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the same.
No.
The sixes aren't made the same
Well,
as
look here at the file case number
Yeah.
5635,
Mm-hmm.
and the file number for Buford is 644. You're exactly right.
See, so it's wrong. It's not something is not adding up.
No, no, they have just thrown some. Go ahead. You're
How that
exactly right.
this agent, Blackwell, was down in McNairy County investigating a car theft ring. And he was working with Jim Moffett, who is a criminal investigator working there at the time at the sheriff's office. And that the discussion about Buford Pusser just came up as conversation, and
Sure.
that Jim Moffett volunteered this information about.
Stop it. Sure, guys. They're just working together on a car theft case, and all of a sudden, Jim Moffett brings up and starts spilling his guts. He might as well just been laying on a psychiatrist's couch because he starts telling all the bad things that Buford Pusser's done in his career that he knew that he done, but yet he didn't. He didn't go turn them in. He didn't go before a grand jury. He didn't go to nobody that they could indict him or do. In fact, in the end here, you're going to hear Mike Elam say that, well, even when Buford got for sheriff again, Jim come back to work for him. He felt sorry. He knew that Buford had killed his wife or whatever it was he says here at the end, but he felt sorry for him. Really? Go ahead, babe.
But he also noted that Buford didn't go on important calls by himself. He would always swing by, pick Jim up.
Guys, Sheila and I have covered, you're exactly right, babe. Sheila and I have covered this in other videos. And if that's true, why is it that Buford had been shot and stabbed several times and assaulted and cut and all these different? If somebody was with him, surely they would have jumped in and helped him because there's multiple times where Buford was cut up and shot and during his career as a police officer. If he didn't go on calls by himself, he sure didn't have no backup. He might as well be by himself because,
Or why didn't the backup get hurt as well?
yeah,
Yeah.
Buford Pusser. I seen earlier where he also says that he didn't come into the office till in the afternoon because he'd work at night. Well, that's when your bad calls come in. Is at night shift. If you're a rookie or you want activity, take the night shift because that's when you're going to get your calls. That's what he was out there doing. But you ain't going to hear. The thing about Mike Elam, he can point your direction in any direction that he wants you to go. He just sits there in front of his little computer. Truth has no agenda and just points you in any direction. And some of you's going to go there. It's okay. I realize you're out there. You're probably sitting there with your COVID mask on while you watch his. I feel you. Go ahead, let it play.
Well, at the same time, Moffett is volunteering the information that Buford liked to work nights. He had several girlfriends located all over the county, and that he would often bring his car by, leave it at Jim's house, and borrow Jim's car to drive to take his girlfriends wherever. Now, Mrs. Moffett didn't like that arrangement. She was.
Mrs. Moffett didn't like that arrangement, but yet their daughter never heard anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
She said she never heard anything bad. You ever heard your mom and dad argue? How many of us has never heard our moms and dads argue? How many of our has never heard us argue? Husbands and wives, their parents argue. Do we believe that? You can if you want. I don't. Buford, I'm going to tell you, funny thing is, Buford had the opportunity to do all these things and very well could have. Sheila and I are not here to take up for Buford and say that he should have been the local minister, that he should have been a preacher, a head of the local church. We got involved in this case when they accused Buford Pusser of murdering his wife. What Whether he had girlfriends or he didn't have girlfriends is irrelevant to me. That's between him and God and each other. Why do we have to talk about girlfriends? Why do we have to talk about, thank God I never had to work for them? What does that have to do with Buford Pusser killing Pauline? That's what we need. We need evidence that he killed his wife. And when the evidence isn't there, then people starts pointing your direction. It's the way a good defense attorney would work. When you have nothing else to go on, attack the police officer. If you're ever in court, well, used to be, that's what it would do. Now, attack the police officer. I'll just go ahead and tell you. Always look at the police officer, because police officers anymore are not truthful. They're not trustworthy. They may be, hopefully, there's still some out there. I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you, don't, on these juries, just because some guy in a uniform with a badge says it, or a title, you don't have to believe that. You look at the evidence, look at the person, look at what they're saying, because I'm finding out more and more and more, especially after this Joseph Couch deal, that the police don't always tell the truth. It breaks your heart and it kills me to say it, but I've learned over various things in my career. Go ahead.
As opposed to it, she knew that Buford was cheating on Pauline. But Jim said he had to allow Buford to do it because he was the sheriff and Jim was just a deputy. So that practice continued. Now that tells you a lot about Buford. Just as soon as he is sheriff, we notice that he starts philandering, seeing other women, borrowing.
Doesn't tell me a thing about Buford, Mike Elam. It doesn't tell me a thing about my Buford Pusser. It tells me that you're a good storyteller. You're a good liar, because I, hopefully you've got something materialistic. Hopefully you've got some physical evidence, something tangible that you can show to a jury that will prove what you just said. Because I'm sitting here and going through my mind. I'm not going to say it, but there's so many things that I want to just come out of my mouth and just say, I know when Mike Elam was a young man, he did this to this or that. There's so many things that a person can just sit here right now and say that, because we've got, or I have, guys, my phone number is 606 669 0364. I've put it out there forever. And people text messages me, they call me. My email's on our account, and they email, and they've told us stories. Now, we ask for proof. So far, I haven't gotten anything that I want to throw on a video just yet, but I have got what we call rumors. You would probably call the truth. If you got some of the comments that we got about you and it was somebody else, you would already have thrown them out there, because you would have said, oh, this is enough. I can go with this. That's not the way me and Sheila works. Mike Elam is a storyteller. Mike Elam is a rumor starter and a rumor spreader until they start on him. And then I can just see him thinking to himself, my Lord, how'd this come about? What happened here? What they're called rumors, Mike. Most people don't spread rumors on other people without being credible. Guys in the family, if you all don't file a defamation suit against this man right here for all the videos that he's made about your mother, your grandmother, your grandfather, if you don't do it, you shouldn't expect nobody else to stand up for Buford Pusser or the Pusser or the Vance family. I can't put it no plainer than that. This man has slandered, libeled, defamed your entire family and both family names. He put it on video. He didn't only do it, he put it on video for you. Play this video for a jury, and then let him ask Mike to show proof to back up where Buford was a criminal and a lawman, where Buford had all these girlfriends. Oh, I know there's rumors. I know there's stories. I know there's TBI that says that's what tickles Mike to death. Now, Mike thinks he's in the clear because he's thinking, well, the TBI cleared them. The TBI, they said this or they said that. Put these people under oath. Let's put these same people that the TBI interviewed under oath, because to our knowledge, they were not under oath. They just gave just like Davison and Roush did at that podium that day. They stood up there and they could say anything they want. Just like Mike Elam can sit here in front of that microphone and say anything that he wants to and think that he can't be held accountable. Well, when you put him under oath and then you ask for the proof, he can either produce the proof or he can pull out the billfold. It's time. It's time to put up or shut up. It's time to let this man either continue to make his videos and defame the family like he's doing, because he's going to continue to do it. Now he's got a feather in his hat. He thinks he's done something, and he's going to really get raw now unless somebody puts a stop to it. It's up to the family.
Jim Moffett's car to hide his involvement, and so on. So there you have to take that. Now we'll move down to the third paragraph on the very first page and see what it has to say. The third paragraph in this document begins to reveal a lot more information, in that Jim knew that Buford was getting about $1,400 a month in payoffs from various club owners. And he said that Buford himself had a bootlegging operation that was set up where he was making $1,000 or more each month.
Kidding me.
Do you guys think that with the reputation that Jim Moffett had, and he's taking Jim Moffett out here and they're busting up all these moonshine steels, they're taking hammers to them, dynamite to them, shooting them up. Do you think that the reputation that Jim Moffett had, that he's going to go out here to all these other people and he's going to destroy their moonshine steels, but he knowingly allows Buford Pusser to have one? Do you guys really believe that Buford Pusser was wanting to be a moonshiner or a police officer? Buford Pusser was like a lot of cops back in the day. He was protect and serve. He was there to help. Moonshining wasn't in his agenda. It wasn't there. And he said something right before that, that talking about the $1,400 a month, guys. We've discussed this, Sheila and I have. Isn't it funny? You're going to hear him in a minute. He always goes back to Louise Hathcock. But isn't it funny that he's making $1,400 a month, but he goes and shoots the very person that's supposed to be paying him? You're going to shoot your money bags. You're going to shoot where the money's coming from. That sure put a stop to that $1,400 a month, didn't it? See, guys, you don't have to go far to correct Mike Elam. You don't. You just have to listen to him real good, like when he says on the third paragraph of this document. That's not a document. That's not a document no more than anything else, than my grocery list. That's not a document. That's somebody has typewritten up, maybe even him, and put a date on it, put a name on it, and reading it off as if it's a statement, as if it's an official report, with not even Thomas Blackwell or whatever his name, don't even have his signature on it, where we could compare to an old check, old payroll check, anything at all, where we could let a handwriting analysis expert look at it and say, you don't have to do that because his name's typewritten out. How are you going to compare that to anybody?
From that. So that was $2,400 that Jim Moffett knew about. And this was early into his administration. Jim laid part of the blame for Louise Hathcock's death on himself, because he said that he would go down, get search warrants from Judge Treese, and he would inform Buford about it, of course, and only Judge Treese, Jim Moffett, Sheriff Pusser, and Petey Plunk knew about these warrants, and said when they'd be served, like one of them, they went down and they got something like 3 half pints of whiskey that was bootlegged in, and it was there at the Shamrock, and they confiscated it. But Jim said he wasn't going to press charges because that wasn't enough to really bother with. And so he went back to Judge Treese and got warrants that only he and Treese knew about. And he called Buford, had him come down to a restaurant there in Selmer. They met, and Jim was about to go serve the warrant, so they went down together. And lo and behold, they made a pretty good bust. And it makes you wonder when they took Husser and Plunk out of the equation, why the raids would be so much more effective. He said the day before that he had got warrants for a place in
No,
Selmer
this is
and
aggravating here.
did rather well with that. But said he got down to the state line at the same time the day before, and they found a couple of cases of bootleg whiskey in the trunk of Louise Hathcock's car.
Okay. And that goes back, guys, to, half of this stuff Mike Elam makes up. And then when you talk about that, what do you want to say Buford? Buford was the one that loved being in the newspaper. Buford's the one that loved making these busts and building that reputation of his so he could run for sheriff the next election. Now, Mike brings up an interesting fact, and Sheila seems to agree, and I do too.
Yeah, he said he didn't tell Mr. Passer or Mr. Plunk. And then he got a pretty good haul in. So who's to say it wasn't Mr. Plunk?
Yeah, who's to say it wasn't? Who's to say that Plunk didn't have knowledge of the 1967 ambush? Now that we know that Ricky Plunk had a gun that his dad gave him that he thought was stolen and that he thought maybe even been used in a homicide, but he didn't go to the police. Now, even Ricky didn't go to the police. Ricky went to Mike Elam. Now, why would Ricky go to Mike Elam for? Or does he take after his father? Because his father, Mike Elam says, sold him pictures or sold somebody pictures for $500 of the ambush scene. Who does that? What police officer does that? So that shows that money, if that's true, if what Mike Elam says is true, and PD Plunk actually sold crime scene photos to somebody, and money meant more to him than dignity and character, then who's to say that maybe PD Plunk was the one getting paid? Maybe PD Plunk was the one informing people that were coming your way, we're getting ready to head out, if that's possible. See, I don't believe nothing Mike Elam says, so it's hard for me to believe it until I heard the story about Ricky Plunk with this gun and his dad being Petey Plunk, and then about the pictures being sold. And then you start wondering, did Petey Plunk have anything at all to do with the ambush even? If he gave that gun to his son and told him the history to that gun or some of the history, or made that gun seem like there was more to it than just, I'm giving you this gun. And then even Ricky Plunk, like father, like son, instead of going to law enforcement, instead of going to the police, he goes to a loss prevention officer slash police dispatcher at one time. He goes to a police dispatcher. Wow. You're really wanting law and order. You're really wanting justice, but you go to a guy that writes books, a guy that has a podcast rather than the police, highway patrol, TBI. I can understand not going to the TBI. You could have went to a city police officer. A good point. Real good point.
So I think there's something to be said here that whenever Jim would share information about warrants he was about to serve, nothing happened. Uh, Kept that information between he and Judge Treese. Those raids were successful. And of course, I've always said that Buford was taking payoffs. He was letting these people get by with things if they would pay him. And I think that's an indication that Louise Hathcock was indeed paying Buford.
Okay, stop.
And that the only time.
And again, Mike, could you explain to us, while you're working at Walmart and that's your bosses and they're paying you your salary each week, would you do anything at all to upset the apple wagon, apple cart? Would you have cut your nose off, spite your face if she's paying Buford? $1,400 a week? Why would he shoot her? Why would he kill his income? Because when he killed her, he just killed $1,400 a week.
Times that it seems like that she was caught was when only Jim knew about the warrants that were about to be served. I know a lot of people will try to make hay about this, but hey, you guys try to explain this that are naysayers.
Did you see him hold the report up, guys? You see him hold that so-called report, that paperwork, like he's showing you something? That's an illusion. Just like the illusionary truth that he keeps telling people over and over. He holds that paperwork up, that typewritten paper by maybe even him. He holds it up as if it's got to be true. It's on this paper here. Go back and read the page and a half that I put on there. Took me about 10 minutes to write this morning that could be mistaken for a report written in 1967 or a letter or a statement. Got something else I want to put on here before I forget it, and that's the reenactment. If any of you out there are any good at AI, if you're any good at AI at all, if you ever get a chance, take that video of the reenactment of the shooting when Pauline and Buford was in the car and the two dummies are facing each other. And take that front dummy, take Pauline's dummy and face her around facing the front of the car. So when the bullet hole hits the side of her head, that blood and brain matter goes all over Buford, because that's the way it would go. Had she been facing the correct direction when she was shot in the left side of the head, all that blood and brain matter would have went over Buford. That's where the blood and the brains come from that was on that car hood when he's running around to check on his wife. But see, it don't show that in that video. But if you're an AI person, you can probably redo that video and show us the correct way that really did happen that day.
And tell us why that would be that way. Why that they only got lucky when Moffett knew about these things. I think that says a great deal about Moffett, and it really says nothing positive about Sheriff Pusser. Just fact. Move on to page 2 now and see what the document says. Now, in the very first paragraph of page 2,
Great point. We're going to skip through this, guys, because this is on Louise Hathcock. What does Louise Hathcock remember how we got here today? Remember how these videos come about. Mike Elam says that Buford Pusser is responsible for killing his wife, Pauline. Why are we discussing Louise Hathcock? Why are we discussing payoffs? Why are we discussing dispatchers that didn't want to work for Buford? What does that have to do? What does that prove? Where is the proof at that Buford killed his wife in all this nonsense? See, this proves nothing at all on the basis of what the TBI and the prosecutor stood up there and said that day at the podium. Buford Pusser murdered Pauline. That's what Mike wants you to believe. But Mike's on the death of Louise Hathcock.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That has nothing to do with Pauline. Well, it does. In my opinion, it's retaliation to her death, but
Oh, yeah, we think that. If there's anything Louise should be mentioned, that's exactly right. That was Towhead, that was Nix, that was Hathcock's, WO. No doubt they had some involvement or knew about it or knew of it, or even Dennis, even to the point we feel that Dennis Hathcock at that age knew something, whether he was a lookout, whether he knew about it, whether he heard it through the grapevine or a rumor. Dennis Hathcock is a valuable witness or somebody a person of interest to talk to. But see, the TBI was hook, line, and sinker in the opposite direction. They didn't look at nobody else. They didn't look at P.D. Plunk. They didn't look at Dennis Hathcock, see what he might have known. So we're gonna probably cut this here.
Moffett went on to tell Agent Blackwell how he went back to the Shamrock later that evening. And when he arrived, he encountered someone there that said that uh, there had been a meeting just days before.
Uh,
And
we're just going in and out of this one, guys, because we've all heard this before on
Mhm.
Louise Hathcock. But notice how Elam always throws in there was someone there. Moffett went back, but there was someone there. He doesn't state who it is. He doesn't state who he talked to or who told him this or that. It's just someone, and that's what Mike Elam's books and reports and videos consist of. Go ahead.
he thought that they had a arrangement worked out, an agreement of some sort, and stated this agreement that apparently was made between Buford and this group of individuals. Now, moving on to page
Stop
2,
it there.
paragraph.
Now, he told them all about what happened, Moffett did, but he didn't tell them nobody's name. He's told them about Buford getting paid. Mike Elam throws in, he throws in everything out there except people that you could go confirm this with. But if he did tell you a name, I'm guarantee you they would be dead. So I don't guess it really matters. But
3, the final paragraph on the page, Moffett says that their conversation as they rode together turned to Pauline's death. And he said that he didn't think it happened any way like that Buford had described, because he knew that Carl Pusser and Buford both had lied to Warren Jones, saying that Carl said that there was a call that came in about 1 a.m. and it was from someone that said that he wanted to meet Buford on New Hope Road. And he went on to state that Pauline went with Buford on this journey, doesn't explain why, and that Buford said that as they were crossing the little bridge there, about 3/4 of a mile south of the Methodist Church, that a car pulled alongside of them. Several shots were fired, and he knew that couldn't be true because he was saying that there was no way that two cars could pass each other on that bridge, as Buford was claiming happened. He said that he recovered several 30 caliber rounds or casings there on the bridge, and that he discovered even more about 2 miles.
and guys, we're not gonna go. You can pick at poor old Mike Elam's videos all day long. He's just full of. He could not only blow up an onion sack, his stories are as full of hoes as an onion sack's got. He says two cars couldn't pass on that bridge. I don't know what it was back then. You can pass on it now, but besides that, I think we've said it in other videos. What Buford was talking about that bridge was that was the marker. That was the landmark that he was saying. Somewhere around that bridge is where and we've always said, Sheila and I, from being down there and looking, if you'll go look at it, if you've not been by there, look what a straight stretch coming into that bridge. Down that straight stretch is probably where they were pulling up beside of them at. Now, he says that Moffett says that he picked up a bunch of casings down through there. Remember one video he shows, he's got a whole pile of casings just all in a pile. And it says that guy, one of the reports, TBI report, said the guy was out going to plow his field at 4 o'clock in the morning. Buford didn't get the call till 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
Contrary to what Mike and everybody says, they had called Carl about 4:30 or so, but he wouldn't call and get Buford up to go on the disturbance. He was just going to let him sleep. He knew he hadn't been in long.
And he knew they were going on vacation, so he didn't want to disrupt.
Exactly. That's the other thing. But about 5 o'clock, they called Buford directly.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to say this guy was out at 4:30 in the morning going to plow his field, and he found a whole pile of glass and a pile of casings. Just happened to be piled up there. Instead of slung up and down the road, they were just out in a pile. Now, Elam says that Jim Moffett found these rounds, and then he went about 2 miles down the road and he found even more 30 round casings. Huh. That's funny because I thought Mike Elam was interviewing Dennis Hadcock.
And he said he's the one that came up on him.
Yeah.